In this video, I'm going to install a Pioneer TS-WX130DA fully integrated subwoofer into the factory armrest that used to have a integrated subwoofer. So the previous owners did remove the subwoofer. We can still see the opening here for the speaker, the woofer. And as you can see from the other side of the console, there definitely seems to be enough room to sneak this into it. So hop along for the ride as I find a way to shoehorn this into that space and hopefully regain some of that low end frequency that is missing from this vehicle. So what I like about this integrated unit is that its total width is 11 inches, the depth 7 inches 7/8, and the height is 2 inches and 3/4. So this should be really nicely integrated, really reduces the amount of space required. All the ports are in one specific location, which should make connection relatively simple. It's not for an Ethernet cable, that's actually for controls. So the following items are included in the packaging with the unit. So there's wires for RCA, or you can cut them off and connect them directly to your line out if you don't have a preamp out. Wiring harness that has your power, remote lead, and your ground. All the controls are integrated in remote. The lead is pretty long for my application because this could be located in the trunk as well. So I'll definitely have to tuck some of that in somewhere. And the only other item that I had to purchase separately was RCA jacks, so I can connect into the aftermarket radio. I will be making some brackets to fit that into that space. So the first thing to do is going to be remove the console. So underneath the cup holders, there's this 10mm fastener. So remove that. Should be relatively easy depending on how often this has been removed and reinstalled. At the back there's a plastic rubber thingy under the cup holders that has to be popped out. So depending on what tools you use, may be easier with some than with others. Below that you're going to find two T30 bolts. Unscrew those. And now we should be able to lift up the console. Now it should be as simple as lifting this up. Just gotta make sure that the front end slips underneath and then up. Might be a good time to also do a little bit of housekeeping. So here you can see there's still some room at the front, depending on where I place the speaker. So this could have been maybe a 2-inch longer enclosure, and it still would have fit. As for depth, it's hard to say without having the handbrake up next to it. But as for actual height, there's not much left. There's maybe less than an inch. So we're definitely getting close to the right dimensions to fully utilize the available space in this, without having to go to a custom built enclosure. So the inside of this is pretty darn cruddy. I'm going to use a little bit of brake cleaner on a rag just to try to wipe this down. I could be less lazy and go in the house and get proper cleaner, but hey, it's a garage project, so let's keep it in the garage. So got a fair bit of crud off that. My goal here is to clean the plastic enough that I'm able to stick some foam so that I'm ensured that we're not going to hear the speaker, the woofer enclosure rubbing against the console. Give that a few minutes to dry, evaporate, and then I'll see if anything will stick to that. This is relatively old foam that I had kicking around in the shop, so who knows how well it's going to actually stick. Looks like it's roughly ½ inch thick. I may have enough to actually do both sides and a little bit on the bottom of the pocket. This doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be functional. The only people who are going to know about it is me and whoever's watching this. Let's cut this little bit off. There you go. Sit the speaker in there again. That'll put a little bit of weight against it. That actually looks pretty darn good for an alignment placement. And the important part here is that the way that this is powered and amplified, it's all from the back. It's gonna be nice and far from the actual parking brake. Still room in the back, still room at the front. And now the fun part is going to be deciding how I'm going to physically mount this. There's two different spots in the corners for the brackets. So the goal on this side, this is one of the original bolt holes for the original woofer. So I'm going to add a little bracket here. It's roughly 4 inches long. Add a hole at the front, hole on the side, then I can bolt these pieces together. And then I'll do something similar at the back. Come all the way up to the top and find a way to also mount it so that, again, if I still had the stock bracket, there'd be a bit of a Y going to here and from this bolt to this side. So this is the template I made. So now I'm getting really close to the template that I made in this piece of metal. And if I play it all the way to the back, where I have my bracket next to the tab for the sub, I'm almost perfectly in line with the edge of the underside of the cup holder. So I'm gonna have to trim a tad more so that when it bends, I end up with an opening right around here. So it sits on the 4 tabs, and that way it's not gonna be resting up higher because of this, but it's actually gonna be sitting on the inside or the outside of this plastic ring. So we're getting there, a little bit more fiddling. And this way, the nice thing is that the sub will be supported by the actual armrest, and then the bottom will be pushed up when it's sitting on the in the cab, pushing up against this. This is also the way that the stock parts were supported, so that'll definitely help. So now I have an idea where that bar is, roughly in the middle of that hole. So what I want to do now is figuring out the diameter of this. So I'm roughly, depending on where in the plastic, it varies because it's been squished in the past, so it's a little over 19 millimeters. If I lock it and use the stepper bit, I know that I have to go down to at least the second one from the bottom, and that should give me the right opening. So this bracket is done. I even have a bit of a taper on the opening here so it sits flush with the actual plastic. So I pulled it out hopefully for the last time. I installed the RCA cables as well as the power remote ground. The only wire left to connect at the the sub will be for the controls. And there is a little bit of a bracket back there. So just make sure you install it. So the fun thing now is that this is definitely very sturdy. I think once this is installed, bolted down, that'll hold the bottom back corner really well. The front, we'll see if I can get away without it because it does feel extremely solid in there. It's not a super powerful unit, so should be good. We'll find out the hard way. When you start tucking in the wiring, just got to remember where the parking brake goes up and down. So hopefully this way I've got enough zip ties to keep the wires out of harm's way. I've connected the ground there, and I've routed all the other cables underneath the console up into the dash. I'm going to clean it up, button it up, and see how it feels, how it sounds. So I've got the radio set to have the low pass frequency at 160 hertz. Seems to do a good job with these speakers that are in here. They're Polk Audio BD somethings, different size on the front and on the back. And I've got the gain set to a little bit over half. I'm not sure how visible that arrow is on the screen. And I've got the frequency, I don't know, 110 maybe on the dial. So I'll play a few songs. The important thing is that this is in the console, so you definitely feel and hear it in the front very well. The goal here is just to have a little bit more fill in the actual dynamic range of the music. We're not trying to do anything crazy on the trails and whatnot, but at least it'll make that music enjoyment even better. Here goes. So this is definitely going to do the trick in this vehicle. Hopefully, if you have a similar situation where you don't have the original sub box anymore and you want to put something in the armrest, here's an option for you. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your own projects.